Good morning. It is Monday, January 20th, 2019, and it's time for the Monday News Brief. Welcome to another episode of the Monday News Brief, a weekly web show where we highlight some of the current events in Central South Dakota. I'm your host, Nate Iverson, and this week we sit down with Chamberlain one-act director Trisha Burke. The longtime director of the Chamberlain Drama Department will be retiring following the conclusion of this one-act season. We'll be discussing her thoughts on retiring from directing, as well as talking about some of the opportunities and challenges presented by this year's one-act play. Also, if you enjoy our online content, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Central Dakota Times newspaper. We also list our content on our website, www.centraldakotaTimes.org, and we're available on social media by searching our Facebook page, Central Dakota Times. And as always, be sure to pick up your very own copy of the Central Dakota Times newspaper every Wednesday morning wherever newspapers are sold in Central South Dakota. Let's get to it. Trisha Burke.
Hello.
We found time.
We did. Thank goodness.
All right. So it is, I love doing CHS, I can't even words today, CHS Fine Arts stuff, and it is one-act season again.
It is.
So let's just start from the very beginning. How long have you been directing one-acts and productions at the school, and what are some of the others that people might recognize?
I have been directing since 1992 was the first show that we kind of brought back. Mm-hmm. And so I guess if we do the math, is that about 28 years? 28 years.
I think so.
Yep, this is the 28th one act. Well, Nate, you were in Pirates of Penzance.
Oh boy.
Yes. Afghan Women, we've done some really great shows. Way back to the beginning, Blues was our very first.
Okay.
My co-director, Karen Clark, and my mentor. And I guess this is now my final one act. This is it. On. We're done. I'm done after this year. So passing the torch. Bittersweet.
Yeah.
I was going to actually be done when I was done with the fall play, and my daughter, Darren, had a couple more years. And so I thought, well, I think I can hang in there. So I'm doing this final show with my daughter as a senior, mm-hmm. and so it feels good. It feels about right. I'm good.
Perfect.
Yes.
So speaking of the play, what is this year's selection?
Well, this year's selection is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, and it is a classic piece written in 1942 mm-hmm. By a World War II pilot, French pilot. It's originally written in French and has been translated in, dozens and hundreds of languages. It is one of the most published and or beloved pieces. It's been made into several different movies. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a cult classic. In fact, one of the best things that I had my students read the novella, and I did that at the advice of a colleague, Vicki Krogstad.
Okay. She
had read it in college, and I said, "You're kidding." And then my other good friend and colleague, Regina Dunn, had told me that it was her favorite book. And Regina's a book wizard. And so with the advice of two, pretty profound people, and I just took it into my classroom. And then the kids really ate it up.
Sure.
In fact, I think you read it.
We did.
And a lot of them just fell in love with the concept of this little prince journeying through the galaxy to find his way in life. And it has some great messages. It's an allegory.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's exciting for me because it's a book I loved teaching, and now I'm going to love having my students experience putting it together.
Cool. And then I know you mentioned, we were just talking, you were actually originally planning on writing the script for this?
Yes.
And then you happened to find a script, right?
Yeah, I love to adapt novels and have done that several times throughout my career, but it was difficult to find how I could get rights for it, because while it's a 75-year-old piece, there are still copyrights. And usually after an author has died, something becomes free to the public. I found out that in the United States that was not the case. In the only two countries in the world that it is not copyrighted would be France and the United States. So I had to, Lynn Peterson, or Lynn Herder, and I had to go on a journey to try to find if we could adapt it, and we started adapting it, and then suddenly we did find, after we contacted a French publisher, we found out who had the rights in America, and then we did find a script. And so we will employ a lot of our ideas with it, but we like the script, and so that's what we are doing.
Okay, I was actually going to ask that next.
Yeah.
So since you already had some of it written, you're going to definitely
we're
throw
doing
some
the
of that in there.
script, and then we'll just make sure we throw in our concepts.
Right. So speaking of a script, for a one act especially, cuts are kind of they're kind of a necessary thing, right?
Right.
And this is, it's not necessarily, it is competitive to a point.
Yes.
There is a one act festival in addition to it being performed in town. So what is or what are some of the big differences between, your typical standard play and a one act, competitive play, so to speak?
Okay. Well, really there are lots of differences because we have only 45 minutes to set up and tear down. And so number one, the difference is picking a script that is going to be cuttable, and or we have a limited set. We're supposed to have a limited set.
Right.
I usually don't care about that, but we do this year have a limited set. And so I guess first of all, it is getting the cutting rights. This play itself is about 90 pages, and so essentially we have to cut it down to 40.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay.
and we've done that almost every year if we haven't written a play.
Right.
And so that in itself is a challenge, but one that Lynn and I love to do. And I learned that, again, from my colleague Karen Clark, learned about cutting and how to do it. And it's been it's a journey. And I love it so much. So I'm going to miss that more than almost anything. So then you have to cut it, and then it's just practice that you are so good, that the actors are so strong that it hits the time every time.
Right.
And they are so confident. There won't be mess ups. So I guess for me it's a way more difficult time for the actors too, because they have to be spot on. In fall play, musicals, the audience doesn't know, and even in the one act they don't know, but the problem is when you're working with seconds, and we normally, I don't know if you were in any plays when we were almost to the minute, probably.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think we cleared it within like 15 seconds, those kind of things.
And you're disqualified if you go over 45 minutes. And so I think the closest I've ever gotten was 2 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Plenty of time.
Playing with fire. And so that's kind of the difference. It's just a real strict genre, so to speak. And it is competitive at the region level.
Yep.
I think people always think that, we just automatically get to go. But it is competitive at that level, and so we have to get first or second out of 6 to 7 plays. And, we've consecutively done that every year but 3. So
it's a good streak.
It's a great streak. And so we hope to keep it alive for this last play.
Yeah.
That's the pressure, too. We don't know.
Yeah. So it is crazy though how rehearsed, when you see these things, even the setup, every person knows exactly which path they're going to take, exactly where it's going to go. And so just that in itself is a really cool.
Yes.
I mean, it's fascinating just to watch all that because it really is. Every single bit of it's
choreographed.
Planned out. Yep.
It is choreography. So everybody plays a role in the play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about the play itself, can you give us a brief little spiel here?
Sure.
What can people expect?
Well, I think children will love it as well as adults and high school kids. It's, we have a talking snake and a talking fox, and we have an aviator who's really our only real life person, grounded in realism. The rest of it is really what he experienced. He crashes in the Sahara Desert, and the author based the play on his own experience. He did crash in Libya when he was an aviator, and he and his cohort, whom he was flying with, had to survive on limited water, and so then he ends up writing this beautiful little piece about those hallucinations, basically.
Oh, really? Okay.
And really what it is about the value of remembering who you are as a child.
Okay.
Because as adults, we often lose sight of that beautiful childhood, of that ability to look at things differently and not only black and white. And that's what the story's about.
What does the season look like for the student?
Okay. Well, honestly, we had a snowstorm.
Right.
So we have only had a few rehearsals right before Christmas.
Okay.
And so tonight, when they attack the play with us, we will be working on everything. If you're a crew member, this year we really do have a very limited set. We're working with ladders on wheels, on carts. And so there'll be a lot of painting. And then this book has wonderful illustrations that are pretty famous. And in fact, they're the most tattooed.
Oh, really?
Illustrations from the book.
I did not know that.
Yes.
That's way cool.
Google it. So we will be working on those illustrations, and we're going to be putting those onto fabric. This play is going to have a lot of interaction with sand dunes becoming made with fabric, and the students create that illusion with oceans. And so the students will be working to create this whole environment instead of us really creating it with set pieces.
Right.
So that'll be a new challenge. It's always a challenge anyway, but this will be a way different piece than I've done. We're also going to be working with a lot of different lighting. We're going to bring in some cool concepts with remote control lighting, LED lighting, and we are going to be working on carrying the little prince throughout the galaxy. The students will be working really hard on their lines, while the rest of the crew will be working on this illusion that we're trying to create.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds awesome. And then this all culminates for a home show and then the regional contest, correct?
Right.
And should they get, like you said, first and second, they go to state. What are some of those dates?
Okay, so the date of our show is January 25th. It's a Saturday.
Okay.
I know there's a home wrestling, but hopefully you can come up for 45 minutes and catch us. It is at 4 o'clock,
Okay.
7 o'clock.
And that's at the high school?
The high school,
All right.
multi-purpose room. And then we travel to Region in Pierre at the high school there, Pierre Riggs. And that will be on Tuesday, January 28th, barring any snowstorm. And then hopefully we will go to Sioux Falls O'Gorman and perform at festival, and it will be anywhere from February, I think that's like 5, 6, 7, or right in there, that first weekend in February. So we don't know when that performance would be, but we'll let people know, and we pray that we make it.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, I think that's all the questions I had. Trish, you have anything else for we?
No, I just really am thankful to this community and to the school for all the great years, and the students. I mean, I have had some of the greatest students, including yourself, and those students have really made my life rich. And I pray that the tradition will continue after Lynn and I retire. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Well, I'll be there. Hope to see everyone else there.
All right.
We'll call it good. Trisha, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by and joining us for another edition of the Monday News Brief, brought to you by CDTTV, a part of the Central Dakota Times. If you enjoy this content and want to see more of what we have online, we invite you to join our YouTube channel by becoming a subscriber on Central Dakota Times newspaper. We're also available on our website, www.centraldakotatimes.org, and on social media by searching Central Dakota Times on Facebook. And as always, be sure and pick up your very own copy of the Central Dakota Times newspaper every Wednesday morning wherever newspapers are sold in Central South Dakota. Until next week's episode, I'm Nate Iverson, and have a good one.